Yes.
I like being here.
Alright.
You ready?
Yeah,
we're live.
Alright, we're gonna call the Marvin Heritage District Strategic Plan Committee meeting to order.
At 6:31.
6:31. Write that down. I believe we have a quorum. So
We have Michael in person, Melinda, Jake, Tim, and John are virtual. We are missing Will and TJ.
And we have our council liaison present.
There you go.
There you
Better
go.
give yourself credit.
Yeah.
You're here, but you don't count for quorum.
No, but I'm here, so I'm here.
count.
Andy is here for the record.
Duly noted. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
A second?
You don't need a second.
Second.
Okay, perfect. We don't need a second, but appreciate that.
Right.
Can I keep going?
Keep going.
All right, I need a motion to adopt the minutes from the last couple of meetings. That include some canceled meetings and no quorum meetings.
So moved.
I'll move.
I'll second. I'll let Melinda move. I'll second.
Do we have to have anybody sign up for public comment for this?
We have no one here, so you can ask if anyone on WebEx would like to speak for any reason.
All right, so we're moving into the public comment period. Is there anybody that is here virtually that would like to speak? I'm going to take that as a no.
You can close it.
And we're going to close the public comment period, and then we move into unfinished business, which this was on the agenda from last month, which is the update of the status of the Marvin Heritage District zoning, the Marvin Heritage Zoning District, more specifically kind of the form-based code. One, I guess for y'all that do not know me, I'm Hunter Nestor. I'm the planning and zoning administrator here for the Village of Marvin, and so I kind of came in here at the end of this, and just to kind of give a quick rundown. I think the Marvin Heritage District went to council back in June, or the form-based code language went to the council during June. It was tabled for
July.
Was it in July?
It was July.
No, I started in July. It was June.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm wrong.
It was tabled because there had to be some revisions made to one, be compliant with state law, as well as other revisions and requests from council, and on top of me starting. So the current status of that is that the form-based code is kind of going through that revision process, as well as the other thing that is later on the agenda is that we also are in the process of going through the process to adopt a small area plan for the Heritage District, which will be part of our land use plan, and will be adopted as an amendment to our land use plan. And all this is kind of tentative to hopefully be scheduled to start going through. I mean, the small area plans on the agenda tonight. The updated form-based code language will start going through the process next month, and potentially to council and around the November-December timeline. That's really. Is there any questions on those?
Nope. We
don't need any type of motion. We can just move into.
You can just keep going.
All right, so we're going to move into new business now. One of the biggest thing was the first item is the small area plan. Just to kind of, I know this was kind of included in your packets with a brief memo. I'm not sure how many of y'all were able to review it, but just to give it a little background on why this is, being proposed. When the form-based code went through that process with council and everything, and we sent back with the revisions, we kind of noticed that there was kind of a lack of, I guess, information to tie consistency into our adopted future land use plan. And it was advised that we create a small area plan to kind of help reinforce the language that's in the form-based code. So just to kind of keep it short and in summary, the small area plans a lot of the general information that was already put into the form-based code, which most of you should be familiar with, and it's kind of just an outline to help with the consistency of what's going to be proposed in this plan in the form-based code. And tonight I would like to get some feedback and then potentially a recommendation to, I guess, go through the planning board. Would that be the?
They see it, then the planning board sees it, then council sees it. It kind of ping pongs back and forth.
So I don't really have like any specific highlights in here. I would, is there any questions on this before I kind of maybe go into it a little bit more?
I got questions, but why don't you go through yours, and then you might answer some of the questions I have about that.
We can do that.
I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'm the only one here.
Tom, is there anything that I missed that you would like to add?
Hi, everybody. Thank you again. I'll thank you every time I'm on here for your personal time serving on this committee. Very important and makes a world of difference when you're involved. Great overview, Hunter. The only thing I thought to add is the North Carolina general statutes always encourage also adoption of special studies that were done in a community that can reinforce the data and community engagement that you've conducted. So the appendices, Appendix A, Village of Marvin 2019 Community Survey Report, and Appendix B, basically the charrette with the long name, are also going to be adopted as part of this future land use plan, which will be within this small area plan. That way when you are reviewing proposals, whenever the design review function is conducted and even rezonings are proposed, you can not only use your zoning tools in your zoning ordinance, but you can also refer to this small area plan and the appendices that might in some places be more detailed, might get into Greenway Trail connection or something like that. So anything that you can do during your deliberation and motions to tie back to adopted documents puts you in better shape from a legal perspective. And it also catches people up with what's been done up till now so that they're not just looking at the zoning ordinance. They have the opportunity to say, let me learn all about this, and I might not even have to spend a couple hours with the planning office. What's on the books? And so anyways, the appendices are very important, and those are also going to get adopted as part of this small area plan. Other than that, I think you covered it, Hunter.
Let me ask, and I was thinking that you sort of, this sort of brings the whole works more into compliance with the state regs, sort of overall, is what this small area plan does. Is that right?
Yes, you already had a terrific foundation from the goals and policies in your current future land use plan 2020. It was almost like you just took a checklist, you and Rohit, in developing this and hit every single policy you fulfilled. It's just while we already kind of got ahead and wrote a lot of detail about some design principles and values in the zoning ordinance, it sure does help to kind of backtrack and feed it into the small area plan too, to provide the basis again for consistency when the form-based code comes up for adoption. So the more background documentation you prepare and adopt, the better. It just happens to be that you all got right out in front and went right into the zoning ordinance. Usually we do the plan first, and you had all this in your plan, but while we had a little more detail, and this is just over a dozen pages, it wasn't much to build up this small area plan to serve that function. We intentionally aren't sprinkling it through the whole future land use plan that exists. We want it to be kind of a freestanding small area plan, so property owners and also investors from out of town or out of state could pick this document up and pretty much know everything about it without having to sift through the entire plan. And this can also get amended probably more quickly, more easily, because it's going to serve the village well in updates as the years go by.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome.
And I just want to add into that, as Tom was mentioning, the biggest thing here, and that he kind of mentioned about where current property owners, developers, investors, whoever can kind of pick up this plan. It was kind of, when I first started and going through the form-based code, there was no really good direction, no direct kind of information maybe to help people understand the everything that's in the form-based code proposal. And so this plan, as well as the information in the form-based code, is hopefully kind of provided as a guide so people can pick it up, understand it, understand what the intent of both the plan and the language in the code is, and then decide what they're trying to do on their property. And so that's one of the biggest things why the small area plan is important, and as well as, once again, it helps strengthen the foundation that everything that has already been kind of done in the form-based code. And so, to kind of simplify this plan, it shouldn't be really anything new that you guys have not seen in the form-based code. It's pretty much the generic information as well as the legwork that has been done over the last couple of years put into a plan style document, which, part of that hits on that community engagement. It hits on the existing conditions. It hits on the design standards and recommendations, and then it outlines these goals that once again either has been incorporated in our current overall Village of Marvin land use plan that was adopted last year, as well as the goals and stuff that were put into this form-based code, the intent from all the property owners, this committee, and everybody else that has given their input to develop the language in that code. So, with that being said, really the biggest thing kind of looking at this document, at first it's on, the inventory of existing conditions. So it's got, then this is just kind of standard, shows kind of pictures, aerials of the, existing current conditions here of the proposed, or what is going to be the proposed district. As Tom also mentioned, it highlights the citizen engagement that was all done through this process. With the feedback information, the community survey, the charrette that he was mentioned, as well as this committee input and input from planning board, council, and property owners. The next thing it kind of gets into is in the guiding principles of these growth and development. Once again, this is taken from the foundations of those recently mentioned documents, as well as certain information that was in the form-based code. Just once again, kind of just standard plan type language. And then the biggest thing, the next section, is the analysis and evaluation of implementation measures. As mentioned, one of the biggest things why the form-based code got tabled was that council wanted to ensure control over residential design standards, which is not allowed by the way that it was being proposed. And so that's one of the things that we wanted to do in this document, is one, make it recommendations, so then it is kind of then consistent within the code, but as well as now the district, instead of being a conventional type district and all rezoned at once, the intent is for the district to be a conditional zoning district where all the property owners within the boundary of the proposed district can apply for this for a rezoning at the time when they're ready. If that's after this district's proposed or a few years down the road. And the intent is to have it go through individual processes compared to all at once, as well as the goal of this is to have a lot of the legwork done up front, because the intent is to have the site plan, draft development agreement, all this stuff figured out when the application is submitted with the village, and it hopefully will actually speed up the process of going to planning board and council and so on, and potentially being adopted. And Tom, if there's anything you want to add, just like I said, chime in here.
Okay.
Trying to think.
Nothing yet.
And I know you, like you said, you had some specific questions. I guess at this time, like I said, I don't really want to go through kind of page by page, because a lot of this stuff is there. I will highlight one of the biggest changes that maybe you guys aren't used to seeing, and I know part of this is impacting, or not really impacting, but changing, the intent of Mr. Owen's property, is that we're going to remove the existing building condition sub-district because it's not necessarily needed, and it kind of creates confusion for those two properties that were identified as that. Once again, because it's going through the process of conditional rezoning, it does provides the flexibility for those property owners to kind of submit a site plan or proposal that is compliant with what the ordinance will state, but as well as that the conditional zoning is going to provide that flexibility where they can propose something that's maybe not specifically in the ordinance, and not saying that's going to be anything crazy, but it will then be considered, and council can review and negotiate and go through that process. And so with the existing building, it kind of, once again, it made every use a special use, and for the most part, and it's kind of going through that same process when it's going through the rezoning. So that's kind of one of the biggest changes that you'll see in this plan, as well as in the updated language for the form-based code as it moves forward.
Hey, Hunter, I got a question. Can I?
Yes, sir.
Does that mean to be able to totally raise my property completely, or to need to keep it intact?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, are you saying that the earlier requirement to keep the property I have dwelling intact on my property was initially the plan? Or are you saying now it's available for me to have it totally demolished and something new built on it?
The simple answer is no, the intent is still the same. But what it does is, now that these properties are not all being rezoned at once, it's your property will remain the current zoning designation, as in the Marvin residential. And then until you submit a rezoning request with the site plan and what you want to do for your property, it pretty much, that has to stay the same. So in theory, like in simple terms, if you want to propose that to council and it's compliant with everything and it gets approved, then yes, you can sort of do that, but it depends on, once again, what you're proposing and if it's compliant with what's going to be adopted in the ordinance.
So you're saying can sort of do that, you're saying with a plan submitted, a plan could be submitted with the actual property on there being demolished and rebuilt with something else. Is that what you're saying? I'm just wanting to clarify that.
I mean, like I said, in theory, but it would have to be approved before you do that.
That be approved by the council?
Yes.
Right.
And that's why, like, the language that's in this plan, as well as in the form-based code, the intent's to try keeping this area, that same natural feel and characteristic that's here. And so that's something that council will take into consideration, and if they don't think it's consistent with the plan in the code, they can deny it.
Sure. And I want to still establish the fact that council and those involved want to keep that property in its current condition or status of a dwelling that's currently there, but possibly updated or changed in a way that would make it even more enhanced. Is that the current status of what everyone is wanting to keep with that property? For me, I just want to make sure
that's still kind of the intent. Like I said, your property and one others were the only two that had this existing building. And if you read the language that was being proposed in the form-based code, it was basically like everything stayed residential until you wanted to apply for something, and then it was a special use permit, and so it's still kind of that same intent, and it's the same. It's a slightly different process with the rezoning and then those specific conditions, but
one quick thing. Then in the form-based code, there was a section on historic preservation that talked about buildings weren't to be demolished; they were to be, was it renovated to have the same character or something like that? and only tear down if absolutely necessary.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. The intent's still the same.
Still the same, it's still gonna be the same guideline as previously, it's just a different process about going about it.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. We lost Will.
Oh,
He was buffering.
The last part.
Did you?
Repeat it?
Yeah. So basically, the intent is still the same because it's still in this plan in the form-based code language. So that's still going to be the intent. That is the intent. And so when did we lose him again? No. Did we? Oh no, you're up there. That when you, if that is, once again, when you get ready to develop your property, do whatever, you take this plan and you take what's in the form-based code, and that's what kind of develops what you're going to submit for an application. And if it's not consistent or you know, whatever, like that's what council will take into consideration when looking and reviewing your plan. And
I
that's,
just don't want someone coming to me and then, you know, have a plan that might be consistent with, you know, doing away with a lot of the dwelling for them to go.
oh, lost him again.
That's what I hate about this stuff. It's not just us, it's whoever.
Are we all buffering?
Yep, I'm gonna get my water in my car
it's-
while we're buffering.
Tom's
Should have brought it in.
buffering now too.
I don't think our internet's not down. Ours is working, so
Everybody
it shouldn't be
else
us.
Everybody else is up at those two.
Per the rules established for, yes, we're having issues. Per the rules established, per state law, with these COVID meetings, if we lose connection, we have to stop.
If we lose.
If technically, if anyone loses connection, they are no longer counted as present. They have to be present the entire time to be considered present. So a quorum can be lost that way. It's complicated.
So did it say that we lost? Yeah, it says connecting up there.
Yes. Let me. And my signal just got weaker too. Oh my god.
Are we having trouble or is it?
It's us now. Yeah. Too bad we don't have a chat function available. I could send something to it. I do have Q&A.
What happened?
We're having slow internet. Right
Here?
now. Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I
What's
can
your
send
questions?
something.
Mine were kind of, you know, I was going through, the only thing we're talking about form-based code is, do we have a definition of what a form, or a link to it, so if somebody picks up, they can see, well, this is what a form-based code is?
That's kind of, are you talking about in this plan?
Well, I was going through your notes, through your thing, and I was making notes on the side, you know, because we keep talking about it, and somebody who's reading it might not know what form-based code is, and I didn't see.
Yeah, that's,
So a definition of the actual
And I know this
thing
isn't
of
a,
form-based.
Sorry.
yeah.
So
but I'm thinking somewhere we should probably define what a form-based code was.
That's good.
I'm trying to think what we do. I'm gonna stop our video.
Can I reboot it?
We might be able to reconnect through audio if we turn off the video. I'm just going to give this a second. This might reconnect. My signal's coming back through. No, it's not.
We can do it.
automatically reconnecting.
Okay,
So it
I'm going to
says-
give it a second. I'm going to go get my work phone because I can connect to the hotspot.
Technology.
Yeah.
Great reports.
Are we still under emergency?
Yes.
So we can't require people to come?
No, it's gotten worse.
Oh, well, it has gotten worse, that's right.
All right.
I thought we were like 30 days away from.
Well, we got Bob back from one meeting and
You know what?
then we got Bob back from one meeting and then he's
Yeah, it was at the
Hang
first
on,
meeting
yeah.
that I was at. We had everybody here.
The last planning board meeting, we had most of the people here and it went really.
I'm going to stop our recording because we're okay. So we had some
We've
connection.
been waiting on you guys.
We had some connection issues here. We are using this meeting. We're streaming this meeting over my phone's hotspot. So wish us luck.
Okay.
So now that we've solved our connection issues, we can resume.
You want to turn the recorder back on?
And it's already on.
Why don't you ask everybody to not do video
They need, if it, well,
unless they're speaking?
they're technically supposed to do video, but
Oh, well,
So-
never mind.
so we'll just keep as is for now. Be procedurally correct. So Hunter, you're going to pick up where you were.
Well, I don't even know where I was at that point.
We can finish them out.
Yeah, we're pretty much, like I said, for those who've had the chance to review the draft, is there any questions, comments on certain sections? Tom, is there anything you would like to add?
I thought when I was gonna do this, I went off video just to save some bandwidth, that I was gonna have to add in or really amend the goals and objectives in the existing future land use, 2020 plan. I didn't have to do anything except, confirm they were all still accurate. There's one that's on page 12, D6.1, and it's just mentioning a planning tool called, used to be a floor area standard, which is one of dozens of ways to regulate property on a lot. And I just changed that to say we were going to do it with design and development standards instead. That's the only one. I didn't have to add anything new, but that's worth pointing out, the one that's highlighted yellow. And you already brought up the change in the future land use map. That's really it. It was piece of cake to write this because you'd already done all the hard work. So,
Yeah,
nothing more to add.
And what I'll do is, I'll kind of hit on that is, so if the committee looks at the future land use map on page 16, this is the intended future land use map for specifically this district. Nothing's changed once again that was being proposed outside of the two existing. And the reason that they're then considered mixed use per se is because if you look at the permitted uses in the mixed use and residential only, that's kind of the intent, because the existing only had all the same uses, but they were special uses, so it would have to go through this process anyway. But other than that, is there any, like I said, any questions? Is there anything else you want to add?
No, not more. And we can,
Okay.
it's not meant for the whole thing. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with that, so help me here.
Hey Tim, we can't hear you.
You're breaking up pretty bad.
Breaking up bad and very quiet.
Is this any better?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
I can hear you okay. I guess I missed a couple of these things and looking it back over. Can you tell me what a conventional square is and a parent tract? Is my tract a parent tract or is the whole district a parent tract?
Your parcel will be a parent tract. It's meaning that,
Parent tract.
it's meaning whatever the larger tract is, if it was to be subdivided, either for residential purposes or something, whatever, then the initial parcel that before subdivision is what's considered the parent tract.
Okay. And I had a question on the tax, the 25-cent tax.
Okay.
Is, as soon as the plan's approved, does the tax begin then? Or when development starts later on? I
That,
didn't find that in there.
Tim, just to clarify, you're looking at the previous draft. That is something that's going to be changed in the proposal of how the district is administered. So that 25-cent tax is a recommendation that was put into this plan, but not necessarily going to be the 25 cents, but administered like that. So so to answer your question in simpler terms, no, there will be no tax when your property is rezoned or whatever. But it is probably anticipated that there will be some type of municipal service district tax in the future of the district as a whole to maintain the infrastructure and like the sidewalk, lighting, everything within the district once it gets built out.
the same thing, let's see, I had
A spot around.
What? How was that? Go ahead,
It
Tim.
looked like when you were buffering,
Oh,
Hunter, and I was just thinking, I might move that hotspot around and make it.
Oh, Lord.
Go ahead, Tim.
I
God
forgot
help
what
us.
you call it. It's, terminal uses or terminate, anyway, has to do with the, what you see when you come into Marvin. Terminate Vista location. I think am I one of those?
Tim, to be honest, I'm not sure. Anything in reference to the form-based code, we're gonna probably discuss at the next meeting, because that's what Tom and I are working on now.
Yeah, I got a good many questions in it. We can talk about it later.
Yeah, if you want to reach out to me personally, like just and have that conversation one-on-one about your property specific, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
Hey Hunter, I got a question.
Okay.
Just explain, I think you've probably already gone over, just explain again the reason why that property I've got is mixed use and not considered commercial.
So mixed use, like I said, mixed use takes these developments that, yes, when you look at the form-based code, it references a larger tract and has a mixes of commercial and residential development. The reason it's identified as mixed use on the future land use map is because those uses that are in the mixed use section for the form-based code that was proposed is kind of everything, once again, that was in the existing. So it can stay residential, or it has some of these other uses that were, as an existing, were the special use. And so that even though now it does open you up to quote unquote permitted uses, you still have to have your rezoning approved by council. So it's still kind of the same process and concept of what those uses were if they were special.
Well, I noticed you also put the parking lot for the church in the same use. And have you been in contact with Weddington Church?
So once again,
Regarding that
the reason we did this is, once again, this future land use map is just a kind of recommendation. It doesn't change anybody's current zoning. It doesn't change anybody's tax value or current use. The reason that one was identified as mixed use is because it connects with, the Fincher property and the other mixed use. And so, yes, it's still used by the church. Yes, that's still kind of the intent, but the reason we did it that way is because there is opportunity where that lot could be used for something, not necessarily for a development, but it's just like, instead of kind of keeping it on the future land use map as civic, it's kind of was just decided to tie in to create that connectivity, I guess, or continuity to the other mixed use properties.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Is there any other questions from any of the members? If there are none, you might need to help me here also. So do we need a recommendation to take this to planning board, or?
I think you need to ask the committee if they're ready to do that.
Okay.
As a member of the planning board, I would think so, but it's my first meeting in 6 months, so. From what I've read, from what I've read, I would say absolutely.
Okay.
But I'd like,
Does the committee have any concerns of making making a motion or just recommending this draft of the small area plan to planning board?
I motion.
I'll second.
Who made a
I
motion?
think Will.
Will, what motion did you make? No motion was stated.
To submit it to the planning board.
That'll work.
That's it.
That'll work.
I'll take that. I'll put it there. When you make that motion, recommendation.
Okay,
I'll go ahead and have it.
we'll tear it up at the planning board, you know that.
Oh, I can't wait for that to happen.
So, don't you, that's how I save these.
All right, so now there needs to be a vote.
All right, now we'll call it for a vote. So, do you want to go person by person, or just have them?
They can all vote at once, but they need to be on camera.
Let's see if camera works.
If you have a camera and want to all vote at once, be sure your camera on.
If you don't, please state your name first, then say aye
2, 3.
or no.
All right, we got everybody.
All right, so
I still have some questions, and I guess I'll need to talk with you before I vote for it, so I'll be a no.
All right.
So if everybody else in favor, I guess raise your hand or say aye.
Got it. You got everybody.
That's 4.
Austin.
Yep, we're good.
Okay. So it will move to the plan.
Yep. So the
You guys will see all this again too.
Yeah, the proposed small area plan draft will make its way to planning board.
Next meeting? This coming September meeting? Why not, right?
Well, we got about a million other things that's not on the agenda, so we'll see.
How long do you want to
Yeah, I was about to say, depends on how long we need
More
to
need to miss.
be. So moving into new business item 2, discussion of the Marvin Heritage District timeline. Kind of mentioned this briefly during the update. The conditional zoning district draft, which is the form-based code language, it's anticipated to be on the October committee meeting agenda. Once again, a majority of those changes are things that were recommended by or requested by staff, and that is also needed to be compliant with the state. And there's additional, will kind of be some additional other revisions in there for you guys to review, and I'll make sure to highlight all those so you guys can, focus on some of those and ask those questions. In regards to the strategic plan,
When will council hear the zoning district?
so yeah, the anticipated timeline for the MHD the form-based code language is October committee meeting, MHD committee meeting, October planning board, October work session to call for a public hearing, and then officially potentially be adopted by council in November is what it would be the process if there's no holdups, and like as in if a planning board does not make recommendation, or if the committee does not make recommendation, or council is not ready to hear the public hearing on it. In regards to the strategic plan, which it's my understanding this is why this committee was kind of one established. Due to me kind of coming in when I did and the changes that need to be made, there hasn't been much progress made on a strategic plan. There is an outline. From my understanding, I'm not even sure if you guys have seen the outline. Does anybody? Have you seen an outline of the strategic plan?
I have not.
Okay. So potentially that would be also on the agenda for October. The intent of that strategic plan is to for like business recruitment and other things for the Heritage District as it gets developed out. That is something that I will be looking into working on as the small area plan and form-based code goes through the adoption process. So that will be something that once again will be brought back to the committee probably in October, at least for that outline. Is there any questions on either one of those?
I see what you mean, Austin.
With that being said, I guess we move into the agenda items.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
I really don't have anything.
Okay. Is there any committee comments from members?
I'd just like to commend Hunter for an exceptional job in coming into a fast-paced situation, even for Marvin, after, taking over the position and really picking everything up and moving forward with it. Just want to say thank you.
Thanks, well said. I was worried.
Any other?
Don't worry, planning board will make sure.
Well,
Hard stop.
if there are no other committee member comments, do we need a motion to adjourn?
You do.
I need a
7:12.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a motion. And then do we
So you need a vote.
And we need a vote. So everybody either say aye or turn your camera back on and raise your hand. All right. Well, with that being said, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, guys.